Welcome to This Explainer. We live in a hyper-advanced, totally modern world. We've got GPS mapping our every single step, self-driving cars, and supercomputers literally sitting right in our pockets. We've mapped the entire human genome, and we can peer into the absolute deepest corners of the cosmos. But actually, scratch that. Despite all of this, some of the most everyday occurrences, things happening right inside our own bodies or just outside our windows, well, they remain complete, baffling scientific mysteries. Today, we're going to explore the very limits of human knowledge by looking at the phenomena that literally continue to stump the brightest minds on Earth. Let's dive right in. So, what do your fingerprints, a single-celled ball of goo, and exploding spheres of light all have in common? Well, what's really interesting here is science actually cannot fully explain any of them. No way, right? But it's true. For all of our incredible technological progress, there's just a massive gap in our understanding of the fundamental mechanics behind these things. We know they exist, obviously, we observe them all the time, but the why and the how? Totally up for debate. Let's start by looking inward, at something you literally use every single day.
Section 1, Mysteries of the Human Body. The unknowns right at our fingertips.
Okay, let's dive into this. We all know fingerprints are totally unique, right? They're formed in the womb by the pressure of amniotic fluid. It's kind of fascinating because it has absolutely nothing to do with genetics. Even identical twins have different prints. But here's the mystery. Why do we have them in the first place? The human body didn't spend hundreds of thousands of years evolving just so we can unlock our smartphones. We actually have zero concrete proof of their evolutionary purpose. Right now, there are two heavily debated theories. First up is the grip theory. This one suggests that the grooves on our fingers act kind of like the tread on a car tire, creating friction that lets us hold and throw things more easily. Makes total sense, right? But then there's the tactile theory. This one argues that fingerprints exist to help us sense tiny vibrations, allowing us to feel textures way more vividly, and just generally enhancing our overall sense of touch. So there's totally valid evidence for both, but as of today, neither has been conclusively proven.
Let's move on to another bodily mystery, and honestly, this one is the entire foundation of modern medical testing. Anytime a new drug is brought to market, it literally has to compete against the sheer power of human suggestibility. This is done through the famous double-blind placebo study. You take a group of people, let's say they've got stomach pain. You divide them up. One group gets the real, active medicine, and the other gets a sugar pill, a placebo, that biologically does absolutely nothing. But here's the real kicker. Both groups fully believe they're taking the real drug.
So, the crucial point here is the benchmark. Let's say, after a week, 25% of the people who took the fake sugar pill report that their stomach pain is totally gone. Because their minds expected to feel better, their bodies actually felt better. That means the real, scientifically engineered medication, it has to beat that 25% benchmark just to prove it actually works, and it isn't just relying on the power of suggestion.
Which brings us to the core of the mystery, the placebo effect itself. Despite being the absolute gold standard for medical testing for decades now, scientists still don't fully understand the exact biological mechanisms behind how it actually heals the body. The going theory is that the brain, anticipating a positive effect, releases endorphins and other chemicals that mimic the healing process. But that's still just a theory. The wild reality is, one of the most effective and life-saving tools in modern medicine is driven by a mechanism we absolutely cannot fully explain.
Section 2. The Alzheimer's Enigma, the search for a root cause.
Now, Alzheimer's disease is truly horrifying, and so many of us have been touched by it in some way. But for how incredibly common it remains deeply misunderstood. It is so important to distinguish that Alzheimer's is not just a natural part of human aging. While some cognitive decline is totally normal as we get older, the rapid, severe deterioration caused by Alzheimer's is not. And the absolute most frustrating part for researchers is that as of today, there is no single definitive biological root cause. Scientists have identified two primary biomarkers. First, amyloid beta plaques. In Alzheimer's patients, this protein clumps together, creating toxic plaques that cause massive cell death in the brain. The second is tau. This is another protein that fails to absorb properly, it gets all tangled up, and also leads to cognitive decline. But here's the mystery keeping researchers up at night. Recently, scientists developed experimental medications that successfully destroyed these amyloid plaques in the brain, but it didn't always cure the patient's symptoms. This has forced the scientific community to ask, are these plaques actually the root cause, or just a byproduct of a deeper, still completely unknown trigger?
Section 3. Unexplained animal superpowers. The mystery of migration.
Okay, let's shift gears from human biology to the wider animal kingdom. Migration is an undeniable, yet completely baffling superpower. We understand why animals migrate, to feed, breed, or escape harsh weather. That part's simple. But the real question is, how do they know exactly where to go? Give a modern human a physical map and a car, and we'll probably still get lost. But tell a monarch butterfly it needs to fly 2,000 miles, and it just does it. It's kind of like having a broke, drunken uncle in Michigan who somehow mysteriously teleports to Florida the second it gets chilly, without a map or a plane ticket. How on earth do they navigate across whole continents so perfectly?
Well, recent research has uncovered a really cool piece of the puzzle, and it's called magnetoreception. Lab tests have actually shown that some species of birds, specifically pigeons, can literally sense the Earth's magnetic field to find true north. That is an incredible, invisible superpower. But answering that question just creates way more. How do their brains process that magnetic information? And honestly, what other unseen abilities remain completely undiscovered in the animal kingdom, hiding right beneath our noses?
Section 4. Brainless Intelligence. The absolute genius of slime molds. And this next one brilliantly illustrates just how bizarre nature can actually be. Physerum polycephalum, commonly known as slime mold. Now, if you've ever taken a walk in a damp forest, you've probably stepped right over this little ball of yellow-green goo. It's a single-celled organism. It has absolutely no brain, no nervous system, and no complex organs whatsoever. By all biological logic, it should be entirely incapable of complex thought, right? Wrong. The capabilities of this stuff are literally mind-blowing. In lab tests, this brainless goo consistently solves complex mazes just to find food. It fills the maze, finds the target, and then retracts from all the dead ends to create the single most efficient path. It's so good at this, researchers actually used it to recreate the highly complex, super efficient layout of the Tokyo subway system. What's more, it demonstrates an ability to anticipate and remember past events, adjusting its behavior based on memory. It's believed to process all this info via chemical signals acting like a network. It is so remarkably intelligent that modern robotics and computing engineers are actively studying this puddle of goo to figure out how to build better self-organizing systems. A puddle of goo.
Section 5. Earth's wildest anomalies. Deep seas and exploding skies.
Let's zoom all the way out now to Earth's wildest environmental anomalies. Down at 200 to 1,000 meters below the ocean's surface lies the twilight zone. It's called this because it's a region where sunlight barely penetrates at all. Too dark for photosynthesis, but not completely pitch black. The immense crushing pressure, the darkness, and the astronomical cost of specialized equipment make it one of the absolute least explored habitats on Earth. But what we have found down there is entirely bizarre. Think of bioluminescent lanternfish that literally generate their own organic light. But what's truly staggering is this estimate. Because the twilight zone is just so massively huge, researchers speculate it could hold more fish than all other fish on the entire Earth combined. Just pause and think about that. That is both an amazing and, frankly, slightly terrifying thought. This massive, unexplored, alien-like ecosystem plays a huge role in global carbon storage, directly impacting our climate, and yet we barely know anything about it.
Finally, let's look up from the deep sea straight into the skies and track an anomaly that has baffled humanity for centuries. Ball lightning. Early, unexplainable reports date all the way back to the 1600s. By the 1800s, terrified witnesses described it as smelling of sulfur and claimed it was literally the work of the devil. And yet, here we are in 2025, and it remains completely unpredictable and unreplicable.
Just look at how utterly chaotic this phenomenon is. Witnesses describe glowing, floating spheres of light during thunderstorms. They can vary from being the size of a tiny marble to multiple feet across. They float slowly, and sometimes they literally pass straight through solid walls and closed glass windows without breaking them. No way, right? When they finally dissipate, they either vanish silently into thin air or they detonate with a massive, deafening bang. The leading theories suggest it might be burning plasma or localized electromagnetic fields, but the biggest problem? It is so incredibly rare that it's nearly impossible to replicate in a controlled lab, so scientists are largely at the mercy of studying blurry internet videos from terrified onlookers just to try and solve the puzzle.
And that brings us to our final thought for this explainer. We so often feel like we've completely conquered the unknown. But from the ridges on your own fingertips to the placebo effect mysteriously healing our bodies, from brainless slime molds engineering subway maps to glowing spheres of lightning casually passing through walls, the universe is clearly still full of secrets. In a hyper-connected world mapped by GPS and advanced computing, what other incredible mysteries are hiding right in front of us, just waiting to be discovered? Keep asking questions, stay curious, and thanks so much for exploring the unknown with us today.